You guys wanted the top 5 custom tracks and Reflex of all time? Well, that's what you're getting in this video. It also gives me an excuse to come back and play this game, which I love dearly. And I spent about a week and a half playing random custom tracks so that I can make this list for you guys. It's only going to be national tracks only because there's way too many Supercross tracks to go through. I'd be here for a goddamn eternity. But I also think that national tracks are just better than Supercross in this game, in my personal opinion. But I'll probably do a separate video for the Supercross ones as well. This is all my personal opinion, so don't get too offended if you don't see your track here. And I threw in a couple honorable mentions, so let's just get right into the video. At number 5 we have Gripendell by Jungstrom MX, however the hell you say that. I never knew about this track until I started recording this video and playing random ass tracks that I've never seen before. This could easily be number 1, and I think this is the most creative one on this list. The start is insanely unique, and especially when you come back onto the straight, you're hitting freestyle jumps back onto the track. It's pretty cool. This track has basically everything you could ask for, and you also go under a damn train tunnel or some shit like that. I really like the attention to detail on this track with like the fences around the side of it, and some of the sponsors around the track, the trees, everything. It just you can tell you put a lot of work into this track, and I'm glad I started making this video because I never would have ever rid on it if I did not explore random tracks. The only issue that I have with Gripendell is that it is an insanely long track. The lap times, if you're running normal pace, is about 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So if you're doing like a 15-20 lap race, you're going to be on here for at least an hour. But other than that, that's really the only negative about Gripendell. It's also got a split lane section, and it's got a bunch of little pre-made ruts and bumps and all that stuff. It's not too rough, but it's a good balance. Also, the water that goes on some parts of the track looks really nice. I could have easily put this track number 1, but decided to be number 5 just because of how long it is. Other than that, though, I don't really have anything else to complain about. So if you've never played this track before, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and it's also a little difficult in some spots, so I think you're going to enjoy this one. So yeah, number 5 is Gripendell by however the hell you say his name. At number 4 we have Zypher by Waycalie, however the hell you say his name. Gonna butcher every single name in this video. If you see my previous Reflex videos in the past, you know this track is one of my favorites. So it was a no-brainer to have it in the top 5, but I came back to it and just made sure that I still enjoyed this track. And it could easily be number 1, but it's definitely in the top 5 tracks of all time. One of the most popular of all time, I believe, also. The only issue I have with this track is that maybe it's a bit too tight and slow. There's not really any high-speed sections at all on this track, but that's just me being nitpicky. I don't really mind that too much. One thing I really like about Zypher is that it is basically a really good practice track or turn track. There's a lot of pre-made ruts that are very deep and corners that go left and right, and it's just a good practice track in my opinion. But it's also very fun just to ride on by yourself, and I bet if you can get some buddies on, it is one of the better multiplayer tracks to race on as well. For how tight and small it is, there's also quite a few different options to choose from on this track. But also this track seems way easier when you look at it on video, but when you actually go back and play it, it's quite difficult and it catches you off guard. I like the scenery of this track, how it's kind of in the middle of the woods, and you can tell you put a lot of effort into every section of the track. There's really no bad or horrible section that I don't like at all on this track. But once in a while, when you're sick of other tracks that are just high speed, super rough, Zypher's a nice little slow down. It's a slower track, but you can also go very quick on it. One of my favorite parts on Zypher is when after you go through the roller section, hit the tabletop and jump right into the rut. That's probably my favorite section on this track, and when you get it right, it feels pretty good. I wanted to put this at number 1, but I think that would be me being nostalgic and not basing it off of what I actually do think. I probably had the most laps on Zypher out of any custom track, and that's simply because, like I said earlier, it's just a fun track to practice on, and there's nothing really wrong with it. But if I were to be nitpicky, it's that there's no high-speed downhill sections. It's a very flat track with not too much elevation. So yeah, Zypher at number 4. At number 3 we have Farm 14 by Redrider 197. If you've seen my previous videos, you would probably already assume this would be in the top 5 because I made a video that was like the best, is Farm 14 the best track of all time. I'm pretty sure this is Kevin Windham's compound or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But this is my second most played custom track in Reflex of all time. I really like all the different lines in the corners and how rough some of the ruts do get. And there's just a good amount of options in each section of the track. My favorite part of Farm 14 is probably when you jump into the rollers. Something about that little section I just like. This track's also got a good amount of elevation, so it's not too simple. It's got some big jumps, and once you really practice on Farm 14 a lot, you can get insanely quick. But it is also very easy to come into a corner too hot and go into a berm or a rut and just crash instantly. This track's sneakily very difficult, if that's even a word. It's very sneaky with how difficult it is. But once you get it right, it's pretty awesome to play. I can't really find anything wrong to say about Farm 14. I think that the other tracks above it are just ones that I just enjoy playing a little bit more. But I'm pretty sure this was easily in my top 5 even before I started playing these tracks. But I had to come back to it just to make sure. So Farm 14 is definitely in my top 3 for sure. I wanted to put it number 1, but again, I think I enjoy number 2 and 1 a little bit better. At number 2 is another one that you guys probably already assumed was on this list. This is Waycalie Compound. I think it's Waycalie Compound by Waycalie again. He's on this list with another track. I believe this is the only Reflex custom track that I did a fast lap video on. I sat here for hours straight just playing this. It never gets boring. It's so fun, and the track is so creative with how it's in the wilderness, and there's so many different lines and options in every section. I also appreciate how fast this track really is, and it also has a couple of very slow sections which kind of balances it out. I also do think that this is one of the more popular tracks that people have played in the past. I just really like how creative Waycalie got. It's very unique, this one. My favorite part on Waycalie is the rollers going up the hill on a right turn. It's something about it is just very satisfying when you hit it right. Overall, the whole track is difficult, but once you get it right, it is one of the most satisfying tracks you can play in this game. The hardest line by far is the triple going up and down the hill. It's something about that is it's a lot harder than it looks, but once you get it, it is very satisfying. This whole track is just very rewarding but difficult. There isn't really anything wrong with it. I just had to put it at number 2, but this track could easily be number 1. It took me at least 10 minutes to really figure out which one was going to be number 1, 2, or 3, but Waycalie is going in at number 2. At number 1, the best custom Reflex track of all time is Redwick by Redrider 197 again, I believe. This guy, I'm convinced, has never made a bad custom track on any game in his life. Redwick, I almost called it Sandwick. Redwick, the atmosphere and the color of the track is just incredible. It's a nice little addition to the layout that this track has. Before I started recording and trying all these tracks out, I did know about Redwick in the past, but I didn't think it was going to make my top 5. Coming back and playing it though, something about Redwick, I never want to get off it. I want to keep spinning laps on it. There's nothing wrong with this track that I can think of. It has a nice fast pace to it with a couple really slow sections, which again balances it out. My favorite part on Redwick by far is when you kind of jump down into the canyon, into the rut, and back up. That is very hard, and it is very satisfying when you hit it, but you gotta watch out for that damn rock also. Redwick has a nice variety. Each corner and section feels different from the other. None of them feel reused or identical to each other. Overall, this track is just very creative. I like the Red Bull banner thing over the jump. That's a nice touch. Also, this hidden inside line is very sneaky and is pretty satisfying to hit. I think Redwick is kind of a sleeper. I'm pretty sure people do know about it, but I don't think it's as popular. I don't think everybody and their mother knows about it like they do with Zypher or Farm 14, etc. But Redwick is just one of those tracks where you can play for hours and hours, not get bored, and just want to keep on playing it. It's a very creative track, and the design and the atmosphere again just keeps you into this track and wants you to keep coming back and playing it. It's kind of a difficult track, but at the same time it is a little beginner friendly. I think mainly the big lines, and if you want to go really quick at this track, it's difficult, but it's also beginner friendly, if that makes sense. I don't really think anybody would dislike this track. It's just a solid option all around. It's not too complicated. I think it's a very perfect design, and that's kind of why Redwick belongs at number 1. So my 3 honorable mentions in no particular order are Gripendell by Croth, which is just the Germany MXGP track that they do in Europe. The Roma Desert MX by Nightsift. Nick Dellion Compound 2 by Nick Dellion. You could have easily put any of that guy's tracks in this video because all of them are pretty incredible. But I decided these are my 3 tracks that I want that were just outside of the top 5. I did have some of them in the top 5 at first, but then after thinking about it, I bumped them back out. I try not to do really any replicas, so like Glen Helen, Unadilla, High Point, etc. I try not to put those in this video because they're not really custom tracks. I guess even though Farm 14 I think is a replica as well, I still enjoy playing that track over Glen Helen, Unadilla. The replica tracks are great, but I think it would be a bit of a bias thing to put them in the top 5 just because they race there in real life. They are incredible tracks, but in my opinion, they aren't the best. Gripendell is just super underrated in general, but in Reflex, something about it and the way Croth made it, it's an amazing track. And the Roma Desert MX by Nightsift, that I debated on putting that in the top 3, top 5. It's a really fast, high-speed sand track that's really rough. It has a lot of pre-made ruts in it. So if you've never heard of that one or tried it, I'd recommend that one. A Nick Dellion Compound 2 by Nick Dellion. That guy has a couple crazy, awesome tracks, but something about it is just a bit too creative or unbelievable, if that makes sense. Like sometimes some of the custom tracks people make are just way too big and just not believable. And I think Nick Dellion Compound 2 kind of falls under that category. And how some of the lines are just massive and the setting of the track really. That's just me trying to find anything wrong with it just so I can bump it down. But I still highly recommend Nick Dellion Compound 2 or any of his tracks. So that's really the end of this video. Top 5 again. Gripendell by Jungstrom. 4 is Zypher by Waycalie. 3 is Farm 14 by Red Rider. 2, Waycalie Compound by Waycalie. And number 1 is Redwick by Red Rider. And that's pretty much the end of this video. I probably will do a Supercross edition for the custom tracks. But for my top 5 nationals, that's pretty much it. Let me know what yours might be down below, if you agree, disagree, and other than that, I hope you enjoyed. And as always, take care.